This is the I Read Comic Books podcast. I am your host, Mike Rappin. Joining me this week, two unofficial advertisements for Disney content that's certainly going to have this episode DCMA'd. Brian Murray.
Hello.
And Kara Shamborski.
Hi.
Thank you both for joining me this week. And thank you to everyone hanging out in our Discord for the last half hour as we talked about Disney merch. That's what you're missing out on if you're not in the Discord for these live recordings. But I'm here to talk to you all about comic books with Brian and Kara. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that the annual episode, 6th anniversary for IRCB, is next week. Send us in a voicemail. You can call us or you can email us, and we'll make sure to play it on the episode. And you'll be entered to win a t-shirt or a hat or a sweater, your choice. We'll let you know who wins. We've got a whole bunch of stuff coming. Brian is going to be running a trivia game. We're going to be doing a live Q&A. We've got a couple other pretty cool things planned, some very special merchandise that's probably going to get dropped. So make sure to join us live to get early access to all that stuff and to hang out with us while we're recording the episode. It's going to be a blast. We're recording January 24th at 1 p.m. next week, Sunday. It's going to be fantastic. But let's talk about comic books. Let's do the thing that we do every single week. And I'm going to ask that legally mandated question. How have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Brian.
I've been pretty good. If you were on our hangout last night, you probably heard me cackling about how I have not actually read a single comic book in a long, long time. So I'm going to deviate a little bit and talk about one of the webcomics that I've been reading. And that is Questionable Content. It's been running ongoing since like 2005 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've been reading it pretty much the whole time. It has drifted so far from like it was like originally just like an indie sad boy comic. And now it's about like the existential trauma of like an AI being uploaded to a new body after their original body was destroyed, and like how war has fucked up machine intelligences. Like,
wait. Questionable content?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, the name says it all, Mike.
I know, but like, okay.
Yeah, they're doing a whole thing on the AI penal system lately. Where one character is a recently released, formerly incarcerated AI who was put into like a government issued body that was falling apart. And so they were talking a lot about like the injustices of this system and how like they need to do a better job of caring for AIs in these circumstances. And she just got a new body. So it was very exciting. She's losing some of her prickly exterior and learning to be nicer to people because she was shown kindness for the first time in her existence.
I mean, I have to imagine you're talking about this for a reason, if only because Kara's on this episode, and that was a focal point, I think, in the I Read Star Wars comic book series. You guys got to stop bringing this up. I get it, robots are people, all right? I get it.
They're not
You're hammering it into my
but
brain.
If they're sentient beings, don't they have rights?
Honest to God, I didn't even make that connection, but yeah, droid trauma.
Common theme.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Could be my fucking subtitle on this show.
Well, I'm glad to hear that series is still going, because I mean, like, I think when I was first getting into like comics in general, one of the things that I heard about, was questionable content. There's a couple of other series that I think are running just as long. I think to this day, and like the fact that this is still going, but it's moved on to be this bigger sci-fi thing kind of is very interesting. I'm glad to hear it's good. It's still good, at least.
Yeah, and then the art, the evolution of the art over the past decade and a half has been mind-blowing. Like, because it was not great at the beginning, but he has used this series. Jeff Jacques, the creator, has used the series to basically learn how to draw better, and so it's been really cool to watch like the stylistic changes over time.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I believe it's all available to read for free online on their website. So if you guys get a chance, go for it.
Yeah, it's just questionablecontent.net. He also has a bunch of other novelty URLs. Like I think, dildo.golf, I think is one of them.
Okay.
I got the whole list here. Poop.rodeo is one.
Okay. Why not?
Piss.farm.
Mm-hmm.
Mydickandballs.com. redirects
Sure.
to questionable content.
What the fuck?
So,
Is there an in-universe reason for these vanity names, or is it just for fun?
he just realized he could.
Ah.
I think it started with like him realizing that .horse was something he could do. So I think he was like Walmart .horse for a while. Until eventually, of course, he was told to stop.
Right.
Can't imagine why.
Dildo.pizza was the one I was trying to remember earlier.
I like 69.bingo. Fart.computer. That one seems like a low-hanging fruit buried already in the ground that I should have had myself. So very jealous of some of these wonderful URLs that he has. Anyways, before we dive too deep down that hole, Kara, how about you? How have you been? How have comic books been?
Yeah, so I'll get into this a little bit more with my upcoming pick of the week, but today, for the first time in 5 years, I ordered a physical comic book from a local comic book shop. So that's I know. So that's
Claps in the chat, everybody.
I know. So yeah, that's a big moment, because I've been doing like trades and hoopla and not reading as much as I did as a teenager. Anyway, I'll get into that later. So what I read this week is a book that I ordered, not realizing it was a French book translated into English. And within the first few pages, I was like, this doesn't feel like an American comic book. And then I saw on the interior pages, like, translated from the French. And I was like, this tracks. So it's called The Golden Age, book 1, by Roxane Moret and Cyril Pedrosa. And it is fucking gorgeous. Oh my God. It's like 200 pages. This gorgeous hardcover. It's translated into English and distributed in the US by First Second. And I feel like their lineup is always very interesting and thoughtful. This is one of the most unique comic books I have read in a long time. So the plot is like this: the princess is becoming the queen because her dad just died. But wait, her younger brother and her mother like overthrow her, and now she's in exile and she's trying to figure out what to do and where to go. So that's all pretty basic, but the stuff happening around that central plot is the interesting stuff, because there's like this upheaval in the countryside because peasants are suddenly starting to realize, oh, maybe we could be equals like the nobility and there wouldn't be servants, and what would that look like? Let's just burn everything. And so there's a lot of like so there's like these like sociopolitical things happening around this like basic story of deposed royal has to figure out what they're going to do next. And the thing that is actually the most striking and interesting about this book for me is the art. This is a book where, like, I feel like with a lot of comic books, we get really used to close-ups, like facial close-ups and like body close-ups to tell the story. Those are really rare in this book. This book is really big on scenery, setting the mood, and focusing on objects instead of the people. And like the people are super tiny and you just have their little speech bubble popping up over them in the background. The colors make really strong hue shifts depending on what's happening. So like violence, the page is going to be like all reds and oranges. And calmer moments are going to be like all blues and purples. And the rare normal moment is like a range of colors. But those are so unusual that when they happen, you're like, what? What do you mean this whole page isn't yellow? So like this shifting over time of these colors. And like, because everything's very like the whole page is using just a few tones to get the image across, you really do get to focus on the line work. This is a very triply, whimsically drawn book. There's a lot of detail. It must have taken forever to get the inking done on this book. There's a lot of like really tiny like hatching details on trees, but the tree takes up half a double page spread and you're just staring at it like, how long did this take you? Do you now have carpal tunnel? Should we send help? But, you know, it's probably fine because in France, they don't have as quite rigorous a publishing schedule as we do in the US or Japan. So,
Right.
Anyway, and the other thing that really struck me about the Golden Age is the effective use of double page spreads. I think much like our acceptance of the overuse of like close up of people's faces in comic books, I think we're kind of used to, especially in superhero comic books, for the double page spread to just be like, here are 2 pages of the hero in a pose yelling something. And that's actually not a very effective use of a double page spread. Like, it's splashy and stuff, but what is that really adding to the story and what is going on? In the Golden Age, there are a few double page spreads.
If you take up 2 pages like that, you don't have to write as much.
Yes.
Fine, but like, you're not servicing the story. No, it's a good point. But so in the Golden Age, there's a few double page spreads where, you know, the background, it's this gorgeous scenery, and the double page spread exists because through the 2 pages, you are seeing these characters travel along a path. And so you follow the dialogue from the left page over to the right page as they're traveling. So you get a better sense of the passage of time and of the physical journey that they're making through the enormity of this scenery and how small they are and how like many little conversations they can have while going through this path. There's a couple double page spreads in like town scenes where it's just, here's the whole town and here are all the different conversations happening around this town simultaneously. So I thought very effective use of double page spreads. And now I'm just like, why are other people using double page spreads for boring reasons when they could be using it for something that actually services the story?
Just from the preview I've seen on the Macmillan website, this book looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, I think you would just get lost in looking at the page layout and just the design of every, like, I saw a couple of these double page spreads you were talking about, and holy smokes, this is a masterpiece of art. It's incredible.
It's very, very stunning. Also, I wrote a note about the noses. Like, I guess it makes sense that French people would have an appreciation for noses not having to be tiny and Disney princessy, but there's a lot of attention to detail on some of the really large noses in this book, and I don't know why, but I really appreciated that. Yeah, so definitely check out The Golden Age if you like ye old medieval stories with royals, but this time with a healthy side dose of should monarchy even exist, but not in like a heavy-handed way. But yeah, definitely if you're somebody who appreciates detailed, interesting art with tonal shifts of colors, definitely check out The Golden Age. I think it's one of 2. So the second book I think will come out either next year or the year after. And then my other super quick update is a couple of weeks ago on the holiday break, I went down a Red Sonja rabbit hole, read a lot of Red Sonja comic books, and discovered that there's actually a relatively new comic called Red Sonja and Vampirella Meet Betty and Veronica.
Right. They're all going to be best friends. That's what it sounds like to me.
And it is not good, but it proves my eternal thesis that the Archie characters work in any setting as long as they stay true to character. So that's my reveal.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm not going to read that. Thank you.
Well, it's just like I think it would have been more interesting if the art was a little more engaging, but the art just kind of looks like they maybe didn't pay somebody good money, so they kind of phoned it in. So
I see.
Yeah.
Well, for me this week, I read a couple of different things. I read Cosmoknights, which is it's like a packaged graphic novel from Top Shelf Comics written by Hannah Templer. This is published in 2019. It's actually a collection of a webcomic that you can read right now at Cosmoknights.space. It's one of those other cool vanity URLs, I guess. And yeah, I snagged this at some point, and I've kind of just been sitting on it. Like it's been downloaded on my iPad for probably since it came out. And yeah, it's fantastic. I couldn't stop reading it. This high level description that I've kind of given it here is it's space gaze, dismantling the patriarchy, featuring gorgeous colors, action packed fights, making a life for yourself, breaking the law. This book has everything that you'd want in a really cool, like modern take on sci-fi action stories that have a really strong message that doesn't feel heavy-handed. I mean, it is a little heavy-handed in a couple places, but I ultimately feel like it has a really good positive message. The description from the publisher is Pan's life used to be very small, work in her dad's body shop, sneak out with her friend Tara to go dancing, and watch the skies for freighter ships. It didn't even matter that Tara was a princess until one day it very much did matter, and Pan had to say goodbye forever. Years later, when a charismatic pair of off-world gladiators show up at her doorstep, she finds that life may not be as small as she thought. On the run and off the galactic grid, Pan discovers the astonishing secrets of her neo-medieval world and the intoxicating possibility of burning it all down. Yeah, this book is fucking amazing. I don't know when the next volume is going to come out, but it is the number one book that I'm looking forward to that I've discovered recently, and I just need more of it in my life. And you can read if not all of it from the website Cosmoknights.space, but otherwise I think this is totally worth picking up. Go buy this book. It deserves every penny. I thought this was going to be a book that I kind of read in a couple sittings just because it's a little bit longer, but I couldn't stop reading. As soon as I sat down, I had to finish it. After I got through about the first 20 pages, it was like, okay, this is going to be done. So I highly recommend it. It's a beautifully drawn book, and again, the story is really, really engaging, really fun to read. The other thing I read was Homesick Pilots number 1 and 2. This is by Dan Waters with Casper Wingard on art. And everybody and their mother has been talking about this book online, including our very own Cinco, who's in the chat today, and it was on the last week. So I figured he tossed it out. I'm going to check it out. Sometimes a ghost house needs some help. Sometimes there's a murder. Sometimes you just want to play in a punk band. That's pretty much what Homesick Pilots is. And I was like super reeled in by the first issue of this book, to the point where I immediately bought the second issue, and I was actually a little bit disappointed in how, I guess, flat the second issue felt compared to the first one. I think the way that Waters established characters was super well done, and I'm really, really hooked, so I'm going to keep reading. But number 2 was a little lackluster, I guess, for lack of a better way to say that. But nonetheless, I think that with the way that the story is developed and all of the possible story bits that are potentially coming into play based off of the first 2 issues, I think there's a lot of really interesting places this book can go. I like the idea of a numerical based plot, which I guess that doesn't really make sense if you haven't read the book, but it's exciting. There's at least like a beginning, a middle, of an end that we know that we're going to get to. I can see this going on for maybe 20 or 30 issues and being a really good, solid story throughout. And Casper Wingard's art has so much opportunity to do some really cool things. I think just in the first 2 issues, the mix of horror-ish elements and these muted neon colors that are available like in every other page, and the color palettes that are used is super duper interesting for a book that probably could have been colored in like dark browns and reds and oranges, similar to something like Witches or the book that Jordi Belair wrote that is escaping me. But yeah, this book has a lot of really like 80s style neon color, and I really enjoyed how interesting that was without trying to spoil too much, because there's some really fucking cool things that happen in the second issue that, although the issue to me kind of fell flat near the end, had enough potential to be like, oh, I think Wingard could actually do some really fucking cool designs moving forward. So I'm excited to see where this book goes. If anything, I feel like if the next issue doesn't hook me, I'll probably stop reading it and just wait for the trade. But for now, I'm at least hooked in for number 3. So yeah, everybody should read this book. Oh, thank you. In the chat, someone said Redlands. That was the book I was thinking of. And I think that, yeah, Homesick Pilots could have been colored in the same way, and it would have been just another horror book, but to lean into these like brighter colors while also kind of doing some horror elements is a really interesting choice, and it makes this book stand out, I think, more so than any other like scarier book that's out there, which who knows, we might be talking about soon. But the one other thing I want to mention is I did read Hikaru no Go volumes 1 and 2 for the Discord manga read along, which if you're not part of that, you should jump on the Discord and read some very fast paced manga with us, and we can all get hyped about Go and how hard of a game it is to play. And yeah, I'm also queuing up Richard Stark's Parker for like my 3rd or 4th reread for the book club that we're doing. So yeah, that's what we've been reading. Let's move on. Let's talk about comic books that are coming out on January 20th, 2021. What are you both excited for this week? Kara, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Okay, so back to what I was saying earlier about I finally ordered something from a local comic shop. And you're probably wondering, but Kara, you read so many comic books. What do you mean you haven't been supporting small local businesses at this time? And I will say that I was so destroyed by my original local comic shop closing that I just didn't find a new one ever. And like when I was working in Midtown in New York, I would like go to Midtown Comics for some things because they were right there, but like I never had a pull list with them or anything like that. And for most of the comics that I wanted to read the last few years, like they were in graphic novel format, so it was easy to get them from booksellers instead of comic book sellers. And also, Hoopla makes it really easy for people in America who have access to library systems that use Hoopla to read lots of comics. Anyways,
listen, you don't have to make excuses, because I think that there's a whole episode available for us to talk about the local comic book shop experience in the modern day. I know that we've done it. We've talked about it in bits and pieces over the years, but like there's definitely something to be said about the local comic shop experience just for people in general, and how it is still jarring to a lot of folks.
Right, but the one that's close to where I'm currently living is actually like nice, and I haven't really heard anything bad about it. It's just I haven't. Anyway, so the thing that pushed me over the edge to actually call them up on the phone like an older than millennial person and order a book from them coming up this week is Future State Immortal Wonder Woman #1. And multiple things spurred my decision to actually get this from a comic shop. One, I got really mad at the fact that the only way you can get a digital comic book is if you give 30% of that price to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or Google. I just felt really mad about the gatekeeping nature of digital comic books if you can't get them like PDF direct from the publisher. In DC, you can't. Also, I feel like DC stuff does show up on Hoopla, but not for like a while. And people being mad about Wonder Woman 1984 being not a perfect movie has made me really feel like I just need to buy a lot of Wonder Woman stuff to channel my anger into telling DC with my money that Wonder Woman is worth investing in. So all those things, plus Becky Cloonan and Jen Bartel are doing art on this book. So the plot synopsis for Future State Immortal Wonder Woman #1 is like so dumb I didn't even register it when I was reading it, but I am willing to pay the $6 for this book. Not understand, like I don't know anything about this Future State thing that's going on, but I will pay $6 for Becky Cloonan and Jen Bartel on a Wonder Woman book. Like that is just a choice that I am making, and I was like, maybe else. I don't want to really get it digital, even though with Jen Bartel, I think she colors digitally, so she's an artist where I think her art does show up better digitally than on paper. But then I was looking at the website for the comic shop that's closest to me, and they were like, we have opened a Patreon to support our operating costs, and I was like, hi, this is Kara Shaborsky, and I'd like to order this book, thanks. Like, just, once your local comic shop has to have a Patreon to keep going, like, I don't know, all my reasons for not shopping from them seemed really stupid in comparison.
So I get that,
because they do a lot of like accessibility and book availability for kids, and how I feel about children reading comic books, because I don't care if it's a comic book. They're still reading and getting used to like enjoying a narrative. So
totally agreed.
Anyways, so that's the book that I ordered and will be reading this week. And the other thing I wanted to super briefly mention, because I didn't realize they were happening, IDW's doing these comic book compilations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where it's like the one coming out this week is Best of Leonardo. And they also have like Best of Donatello, Best of Raphael. And I think this is also like a $6 expanded floppy or something like that. But I really enjoy when comic book companies do recognize that people might want an easy like intro or jumping on point. And I feel like the TMNT are super recognizable. And if you haven't read those comics and you're interested in them, knowing that you're diving into a like best of compilation that's affordable, I think that's just something that more comic book companies should be doing regularly.
Yeah, I looked at this. I thought it was an interesting thing just to be like, hey, maybe I'll just get like a random assortment of TMNT comics just to like have them to read, because sometimes you just want that. Like, I don't need to read, the 24 volumes of the ongoing TMNT story. Maybe I just want like some cool little one shots about these little turtles that I love.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Best of Leonardo by IDW.
Sounds exciting. Well, Brian, what about you? What are you excited for this week?
Well, through some twist of fate, you happens to put me on an episode again with an issue of We Only Find Them When They're Dead coming out the following week. So, of course, that's going to be my pick. I am entranced by this series. I have already gone back and like reread the first 4 issues, which I almost never reread stuff. But I don't really know what else to say about this book that hasn't already been said. It's very, very good. And if you're not reading it yet, you should do that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say, what is wrong with you if you're not reading this?
Well, the thing that makes this book so interesting to me is just how strong every single character feels. Like, and the way that they're drawn, it feels like, I don't know, like the characters are constantly drawn in the same place over and over and over. It feels like almost like Power Rangers or Star Trek in a way, where like the person is associated with a position on the ship so well that even if you're kind of lost as to what's going on, you know who's talking and you know what they're talking about. And I think Ewing does a really good job of writing his characters so well that they all have extremely distinct voices. And you can feel like a really strong family dynamic throughout the book. I'm right there with you, Brian. I fucking love this book. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm terrible with names, so I can't remember what any of the characters are called. But like you were saying, when they are all so like distinct and they're also rooted in the world of the comic, it's very easy to tell who's who. Right. Even if in your head you're just kind of like, oh yeah, this is that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. I'm terrible with character names, but I definitely can recognize positions in a ship. So there's that. Well, cool. For me this week, I actually want to say, before we get into my comic pick, since it's 2021 and this year we're trying to get people to read comic books, because I know that a lot of you out there who are listening to the show don't read a lot of comic books. That's a joke, Mike. For legal reasons. That's a joke.
No.
I do want to say that we're trying to do this new thing that if you share the show on social media and you tag us, we'll give you a $20 gift card to comiXology or Midtown Comics, because those are the easiest things to give you gift cards to. Or if we want to work things out, we can maybe get you a gift card to your local comic shop, whichever you prefer. This year we're trying to help people read comic books, like I said, and this week's winner, for someone that shared the show on social media, is Matt Sherman. Matt, I think you're in the chat today, so let's chat after this episode. You're getting $20 to your local comic shop, Midtown Comics, whatever you prefer. But thanks for sharing the show. We really, really appreciate it. I love to see your posts on Instagram. So if you also want to win $20, make sure to share the show on Instagram, Twitter, wherever, and make sure to tag us, and we'll potentially get you some gift card stuff. Anyways, comic picks for this week. For me, I am picking Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon #1 by Larry Hama and David Wachter. The premise of this book is, Someone is killing the ancient dragons that power the heavenly cities, and only Iron Fist and the deadly weapons can stop them if they can discover who they are in time. I don't even know. This book is insane. I know Larry Hama. He's a famous creator of a bunch of G.I. Joe comics and a ton of other stuff. Nonetheless, the dragon mythos behind Iron Fist and the deadly weapons is something that's always intrigued me. When I read the Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction Iron Fist, and then the Dwayne Straczynski Iron Fist that followed that with the deadly weapons and stuff, I was super sucked in. It got me really interested in Iron Fist, and then I dropped off. I don't know what happened. After Straczynski's run, I just fell out of love with Iron Fist, but seeing the premise of this book has me pulled in, and it's a 6-issue miniseries, so I'm all for it. Very excited to chat about it, or to read it. It's going to be super fun. I also want to say some of the folks on Discord have comic picks for this week. Danny said that he's interested in Future State Superman Worlds of War #1. Aaron's into Abbott 1973 #1, which I'm also very excited about. That was almost my pick for this week. And Cinco said that he's into The Expanse #2. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about Gambit is broke-ass Batman. This is something from episode 257 of the show. We're going to be talking about it in depth, I think, today. So we'll be back in just a second. For our show this week, we are asking the question, is Gambit from the X-Men just a broke-ass Batman?
Yes.
And maybe we're going to get into some other similar but not necessarily cloned characters from the big two. But the resounding answer, I think, between myself, Brian, and Kara is that, yes, Gambit is just a broke-ass Batman. And we're going to talk about why that is in a second. Before we do that, I want to remind everybody that we are giving away another $20, to gift cards. We just got nonstop giveaways that are happening. And we want you to go fill out the IRCB survey for 2021, 2020, whatever. We want to know what you think of the show. We want to get some feedback from folks. And if you do that, you could be entered to win $20 gift card to your local comic shop, Midtown Comics, comiXology, whatever you prefer. Just go to ircbpodcast.com/survey. You can maybe win a gift card, but also give us some relevant information. It really helps us make the show better and direct things and how we want to do things moving forward. The other thing I want to mention is that our Goodreads nominations for the month of February are up. So if you want to help nominate a book for our Goodreads group, go over to ircbpodcast.com/Goodreads, and you can nominate a book that we have for the month of February, which is, the theme is anthology. So if you got a good anthology, head over there and put it up on the Goodreads. But let's do this. Let's get into things. Let's talk about it. Let's answer that question and maybe explain why the answer is a resounding yes to, is Gambit a broke-ass Batman? Kara, I want your thoughts.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning because, not everybody knows some of the details about Batman and Gambit. Like, all right, so broad strokes of Batman: he's a rich kid with issues, lots of issues, which is, I think, a direct quote from something he actually said to Wonder Woman in the Bruce Timm Justice League series from the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. But it pretty much sums him up as a character. I mean, like, little Bruce Wayne, this little billionaire child, watches his parents get brutally murdered before him one night when he's 8 years old, and then he spends the rest of his life becoming a crime-fighting vigilante who, instead of spending his billions on public works and health projects and loans to small businesses and so forth, decides to spend it all in technology to continue his one-man caped crusade as somebody who dresses up as a bat and beats up bad guys at night. So that's Batman. And I describe him as someone who actually, I friggin' love Batman, you guys, but he's so weird. He's such a weirdo.
In comparison, Gambit has had the exact opposite life, in that he was born. He was born to a poor family. His dad was the king of thieves, I think. And essentially he was abducted as a kid, him and his brother. And he kept his powers secret from people because, he got X-Men powers, where he can basically biokinetically charge things. I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and I just want to say, this episode is going to have no direction because I keep getting distracted by everything. Gambit's old powers, or at some point he used to have powers where he could he had foresight abilities with tarot cards. He could manipulate space and time. What the fuck? I feel like I need to read more Gambit. I thought that I read all the Gambit comics out there, but apparently I was wrong because I don't remember any of this stuff. But yeah, did Batman ever have these kinds of powers?
Batman is pretty consistent in his not having of powers. Like, you know, it's the joke on every team that he's a part of, like the Justice League and Justice League International and like the Outsiders. It's just like, you're a rich dude. Like, his power is being rich. And I guess you could argue like he trains a lot or whatever, but and the comics really I think consistently ignore the fact that he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective in favor of him just having him punch clowns. Like, can you imagine how different the Batman canon would be if they actually focused on the world's greatest detective thing and had him just solving mysteries instead of like solving the mystery being the reason for punching?
Right. Imagine if Batman was the question. Yeah. Right.
I mean, yeah, really. So anyway, so the reason we were talking about like Gambit is broke ass Batman is because their lives are really similar. Like,
right.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
Like I think we figured out that they both have a complex romantic history with the leader of a League of Assassins. In Batman's case, Talia al Ghul, the mother of his delightful demon offspring, Damian Wayne.
Right, and in Remy's case, it's Belladonna Bordeaux. I'm not going to try to pronounce the French name correctly.
You got it. It's good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's how you say it though, because it's Boudreaux. So I think it's Baudreux. I don't know. Let me just add the heaviest American accent to it possible.
You're doing
Could
great,
be
Mike.
Boudreaux.
Boudreaux. Thank you, Brian.
And they're both kind of all right. So we have in our notes that they're both kind of like moody and mysterious, but I have to say, you know, I know we're here to talk about their similarities as characters, but I think the huge difference that we do have to kind of talk about, especially since the overlapping similarity that got us on this topic in the first place, is that Gambit is sexy as fuck and Batman is just not. Like, you'd think that Batman is like this like brawny billionaire who like wants justice would be really sexy, but he's just not.
Is it because he puts off like such strong dad vibes that people are like, I can't find this paternal figure sexy, even though paternal figures are sexy to some people?
It's just, I don't know. Like Tia and I briefly talked about this on a previous episode where I was when we did our Batmansplaining special. Like Dick Grayson, the first Robin, grew up to be incredibly sexy, but his mentor figure is just not. But when I think Gambit, like Gambit was one of my first attractions as a youth. Like, I understood as a prepubescent child that Gambit was hot. Like, I got that just from the 90s cartoons. So I'm like, what? Like, on paper, they're both these dudes who, like, I don't know, Batman's always, even though he's like a rich kid with issues, he always has some kind of relationship with a woman going on. Like Gambit, of course, has the whole like rogue thing plus other ladies, I'm sure. Like, well, on paper, they're both like ridiculous ladies men, but for Gambit, I buy it. And for Batman, I'm like, why?
Well, I think Bruce Wayne, I think that we aren't giving credit to the Bruce Wayne side of things being kind of charming. I think Bruce Wayne might be charming. I don't know if that makes him hot.
Bruce Wayne,
I think it makes him
only charming in Batman the Animated Series because Kevin Conroy is a master voice actor. No other reason.
True. The thing is, I don't understand how anyone could find Gambit to be like charming or even remotely attractive once he opens his fucking mouth, right?
So I think the thing with Batman is that a lot of these women find him attractive kind of in spite of himself. Like he is so like surly and grumpy that like it's a challenge, right? Like Catwoman definitely, like she just wants to crack that nut.
She already did, Brian.
She did.
They showed it to us in the 1-page spread at the end of Catwoman #1 in the New 52.
Okay.
That was
Okay,
was not what
anyway.
I meant, but okay.
Michael Janin has made sure that Bruce Wayne / Batman always looks on paper hot. I will say that. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the work that he did during Tom King's run, when he was marrying and with Catwoman for a little while when they were on the run, but like, dude's stacked. Dude's a good looking dude as far as I'm concerned.
Maybe this is the confusion, is that Batman is a straight guy's idea of a hot guy.
Okay, shit. Yeah, all right, I can hear that.
You can look as aesthetically normative to the current ideal of beauty as you like, but if your personality is garbage, you are not attractive. So maybe that's it. Like, Batman is not attractive because his torturedness doesn't come off as, oh, let me fix you, like Gambit's does. Batman's comes off as like, I am just a weirdo loner in front of my computer and I wear a costume. And after the siege on our capital, that whole alignment is like not attractive at all. So,
right.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, like on paper, they're both ladies' men. They're both, as you noted, they both have throwing projectiles that are closely associated with them. So tell me about Gambit's playing cards, because I never quite understood that.
Okay, so I always just thought it was a thing from the cartoon, and maybe it is, but like I think throughout Gambit's younger life, he tried to throw many a thing. And it wasn't until he found playing cards that he was actually able to like hone his craft, because I think there's also like he worked on the streets, or not worked on the streets. He like lived on the streets, and, you know, he was a pickpocket and he was part of this thieves guild, and, you know, they're all like, you know, sleight of hand players and stuff. And cards are one of those things that you do kind of like in your face magic, or up close magic, whatever it's called. And, I think someone put a deck of cards in his hands and they were like, learn to throw these, boy. And he said, oh, okay, sure, mister. But it was probably more like, okay, sure, mister. And he threw the cards. And it was mostly just like, I think it's one of those things that he could always keep on himself. It wouldn't be too weird for somebody to have a deck of cards in their pocket. Though in hindsight, saying that out loud makes me think, if I ever met someone that had just a deck of cards in their pocket, I'd be a little weirded out. I think that they were definitely trying to con me, but I think that's Gambit's whole thing, is that he's one of those sleight of hand thieves guild kind of people that you like, the stereotypical thieves guild type person, and that's why it's his thing. I mean, really, like, he used to do things like I guess with pens and other things you could keep on your person, but then the deck of cards became his just go-to. Whereas Batman's is just like, if it's not branded, what's the point, right?
Well, then I guess Gambit is smarter than Batman, because, you know, Gambit's calling card, if you will, is like, you could just, you know, it's pretty innocent. You got a deck of cards on you. Okay, dude, as long as he's not using his powers, how are you going to tie that back to him? Don't say DNA. I'm sure Professor Xavier or Beast have a way around that. But like Batman, everything is branded, so he leaves a batarang behind him. Like, you know who the fuck was there. Like, he's not being subtle.
Yeah. Well, Gambit has the ability to make things blow up, so it's like he destroys the evidence, which I guess good for him. Smart thinking.
And I do think that for Batman, knowing that it was Batman who did it is part of the point. Like, that contributes to his legacy of fear that he's trying to spread through Gotham City.
Right.
Oh, legacy of fear. That's pretty good.
I don't think we could say that. I think James Tynion's trademarked that as an arc that's coming up in Batman. So,
God damn.
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Then Tynion can pay me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's I mean, this is a really funny comparison, because I think, like, when you really start to put them up side by side, there is a lot that they have in common. But I mean, could the same be done with the Punisher? Could the same be done with, you know, I don't know. I don't know of any other major brooding character. Could you put Ghost Rider up here? Would it work?
No.
Probably not.
Because he's not hating the leader of a League of Assassins.
Right. That's the big one that connects them. Because I think when you
because they're both they both have a history with the same kind of lady. They are both on paper ladies' men for, and they're both like scruffy. Yeah. They're both like scruffy loners, more or less, who just have a lot of stuff going on that they never wanted to see a therapist about.
Totally true. And quite honestly, like the whole you used to date someone from the League of Assassins constantly is a problem for both of them. Like every time something's going well in Gambit's life, Belladonna shows up and it's like, Remy, it's time for you to die. And he's just like, oh, mon Dieu. Like, that's about half of the comics that Gambit's in, I'm pretty sure.
You just hear yakety sax start playing as Gambit goes terrorizing down an alley.
Right. Meanwhile, Batman is trying to constantly carry around 4 children in his arms as various ninja shadow like forms try to kill him.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that was the one that really stuck out to me, is that both Gambit and Batman have led children into battle.
Yes.
Wait. So yeah, because Brian was talking about webcomics earlier, and we're now on Batman having tiny children go into battle with him. I'm reminded of the webcomic that I was obsessed with about 10 years ago called Batman and Sons. And it's some of the best comics about Batman ever, quite frankly. And one of them is sticking out in my mind right now. There's this one where it's like Batman going through puberty, and like in this comic he's just in his batsuit all the time because that's just like the world of the webcomic, but he's like curled up in a little ball, like clearly trying to disguise an erection, and he's just like, I have a mission.
Oh my god.
It's just, like, maybe that's the problem with these dudes. It's like, instead of just accepting that they're allowed to be loved, they're just like, no, I have a mission.
Are we start talking about the Jedi? Because I don't want to start talking about the Jedi.
We did bring it back to Star Wars again.
Right.
Oh my god.
Why is Batman also the same as Obi-Wan or something? No, I think it's funny because I think that Batman and Gambit also have a similar problem of never being able to stay around in one place for too long. I mean, like, they always have a home base, but they never can actually commit to doing like the emotional repair that they need to do. And like you said, they don't go see a therapist, and they definitely should. But I think when, Gambit's thing for many, many years up until very recently is that he couldn't stick around and be settled down and plant roots anywhere. He was constantly on the move trying to make money, like, because thieving was his thing. Like, he basically had the same mentality of every portrayal of modern Catwoman, and that she just likes to steal for the sake of stealing, and that was Gambit's whole thing. And people, every time someone tried to put a story behind that, it always fell flat. But nonetheless, like, they never can stick around to actually deal with the shit that they need to. Like, in Gambit's case, he can't be a teacher for too long. In Batman's case, he can't take care of 4 fucking kids. Like, it's things that's like, these guys have serious abandonment issues, and yet they also are creating more abandonment issues in these other kids and characters.
Mike, Gambit's a teacher? This is
at one point he was a teacher. I mean, like, every X-Men goes through a period of time where they are teaching something. Gambit's whole thing, I think, for a bit was that he was teaching people how to control powers like his, where like they have the potential to overload, right? Like, Gambit's whole thing, he potentially could just destroy a human. Like, it was canonized at one point that Gambit didn't have to touch inorganic things. He could touch anything and overload them with kinetic energy to make them explode. Because I think at one point he straight up kills somebody with that. And he obviously learns to take control over it, which is how he works with Rogue and their relationship, because Rogue, in some stories, can turn her powers on and off, and Gambit works with her to try to make that happen. She's like, Remy, you don't understand. He's like, Rogue, I've done this myself. And then she flies away. And yeah, so he was a teacher for a little bit.
Mike, I want you to keep making up Gambit dialogue, because your fake Cajun accent is everything.
I'm gonna need like a 3-issue miniseries that's just Mike writing Gambit.
So what I really should do is I should produce a short series where I just read every Gambit story and then sum up whole arcs in like 10 minutes, where I have to just describe what happened.
Just get you on TikTok.
I'd read that. I'd watch
Get
that.
me on TikTok and I can be loathed like all the other comic people I see on TikTok that just make my skin crawl. Oh shit, are we recording?
Recording. Can I tell you though, speaking of Gambit, the thing that I wanted the most over the last decade that did not happen, that crushes me every time I think about it, is the project that never happened of Channing Tatum being Gambit in the Gambit movie.
Ugh. Don't get me started.
Like,
even bring back Taylor Kish. I don't care. Like, both of those were good picks as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but Channing Tatum's a sweet Southern boy who was really excited about portraying like the one superhero from his homeland.
Mm-hmm. This is why I just watched Logan Lucky on repeat, so I can get that Channing Tatum being kind of clever for a few hours, and Adam Driver's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the real reason.
I mean that's your Gambit Batman fan fiction movie right there. Then Adam Driver could be Batman.
Oh my
Adam
god!
Driver is. Oh my god!
Right?
That's too much. I can't even.
Right? I don't know about that.
Are you sure? He would be really funny.
It would be very funny, but like, is he like Batman, where like it's definitely a misspelling of Batman, or
because Pierce Brosnan was in Logan Lucky too, right? Or one of the Bonds.
No. Another Bond was Daniel Craig. He was great.
Daniel Craig could be Alfred in this world.
Oh my! Hold on a second. I think we got something going
you're
here.
Gonna rewatch the movie with a whole different lens.
Our Logan Lucky Batman AU is like...
where Batman and Gambit have to rob a racetrack in order to screw over a rich person who's married to Belladonna. Oh my gosh, I love this. I love this a lot.
Right, you're gonna rewatch it now and love it even more.
Yeah, we'll talk after the show.
Yeah, I think I got a 10 to 20,000 fan fiction story ready to go. I just want to make up a clear point that we're coming full circle on fan fiction here on IRCB, where I definitely started this show hating fan fiction. Tia and Kara convinced me that I should try it, and now all of a sudden I constantly just want fan fiction in my life because it turns out most fiction is not what I want. Instead, I just want very specific niche things for maybe 100,000 words, and then I just throw it all away. Never think about it again.
Yep. I mean, fan fiction exists to scratch that itch. You know, we just whether your itch is the sexual one or one where you just really want to watch your favorite characters getting coffee together and talking about the weather, like low stakes interactions. It's all there. An archive of our
wish
own.
that doujinshi was like a thing here in the United States, where fan fiction actually created full-fledged cartoon comics featuring our favorite characters, but in different things. It doesn't have to be sexual, but just in different stories, not created and licensed, were a thing. But obviously, we have a whole problem with IP here in America. I just want to point out really quick that Danny posted a photo of Gambit next to Nightwing. And I almost said Nightcrawler, and that wouldn't have been out of the ordinary.
Different guy.
Gambit and Nightwing, and his justification is that they're himbos. They both use staffs, and they won't stay in one place for too long. And you know what? Can't argue with that. Are Dick Grayson and Gambit the same person?
I mean, they're both attractive.
They both have dumb hair.
They both can get it. How about that?
The floppy hair. Yeah, you know what? Dick Grayson is definitely maybe more of a dick about women than Batman is, because Batman at least is like, this won't work. But Nightwing has strung along Barbara Gordon and Starfire for the majority of his career as Nightwing, so fuck him.
I also just don't trust anybody who chooses to go by Dick. Like, you could be Richard, you could be Rick, you don't have to be Dick.
Hell, you could be Chard. I don't care.
It's a whole different idea.
Richard Grayson sounds just like Alfred's sidekick.
I've been watching the Titans show on HBO Max, and every time someone's like, nice one, Dick, he's like, wow, real original, haven't heard that one before. Like, you don't have to be Dick, man, in either sense of the word.
Sometimes a nickname chooses you, you know?
Oh God. Since Gambit is just so overlaying neatly into the Batverse, I think we should go back to the Catwoman idea, since they are both thieves. Thieving thieves. I mean, I guess you could say that Catwoman also is very flighty with her love interest, except for Batman, which, as we established, is more of a cat and mouse game than anything
really
else.
More of a cat knocking around a ball of yarn.
But yeah, I mean, Catwoman, some of her more interesting stories have been the theft ones, as opposed to the vigilante of her own for the more crime-ridden neighborhoods ones. And like, I guess I could see like Gambit being... All right, you saying that his dad is king of thieves is just making me think about Aladdin now. So in my head now, Gambit is Aladdin.
Yeah.
And Catwoman,
well, I mean, I should say it's his adopted dad. I mean, but yeah.
But you get where I'm going with this. So, you know, I get, sure. Like, Catwoman definitely is like thief with a heart of gold. Like, she is often hypersexualized, but sometimes it just comes across as genuinely sexy, as opposed to look at the boobs. So it's just, I guess, I don't know what the equivalent for Gambit would be. Maybe look at the hair. I don't know. So.
Look at the hair. Well, Gambit is always drawn with like a massive six pack.
That's not necessarily attractive,
I don't know.
Mike.
I don't know what women find attractive. I just don't. I don't.
Looking at the picture Danny shared again, and this guy is like smuggling baseballs under his shirt. Like,
which one, Dick Grayson or Gambit? I can't tell.
Gambit. Dick Grayson is the one smuggling hams in his pants.
Hams in his pants.
Here's the thing about six packs. If you have a six pack, good for you. But also that means you have essentially no body fat, and that tells me that you don't know how to enjoy a good meal. Like, you're only eating to get your protein levels right. You're not eating to actually enjoy the food. And if we can't split a wheel of cheese, it's just not happening. So.
Hold on a second. Kara, listen, I don't give a shit about what I eat. I still don't think I could split a wheel of cheese with someone.
A small one. Not the big Jarlsberg ones. Like a little... Like, you get a tiny little camembert or a brie. That is very doable if you've had a couple glasses of wine and have some nice bread.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No, I want like the comically
but you're not
large
doing that if you have a
cartoon wheel
six-pack.
of cheddar.
Yeah.
She factors in one of my favorite Channing Tatum films, She's the Man, where Amanda Bynes' character is like teaching him how to flirt. And he's like, well, what do I talk to girls about? She's like, ask me if I like cheese. And he's like, do you like cheese? And she's, yes, I do. My favorite's Gouda. And I have used that example to like explain to guy friends how to flirt. They're like, how do you talk to girls? And I'm like, ask me if I like cheese. So earlier this week on Twitter, when a tweet saying that very thing, somebody found like a page of, I forget if it was like a men's magazine or like a men's book from like the 40s or 50s about like how to talk to women. And like one of the items in this book was give her cheese. And I was like, thank you. Like, I'm not the only one.
Distract her with a slice of cheese. Yeah. I think I saw that going around the circles.
Exactly. Anyway, so this is relevant. This is my long-winded way of saying like cheese is a very good topic of conversation. Like, even if you're not trying to flirt with somebody, because people will have an opinion about it. They will either love it or be lactose intolerant or be vegan. But either way, you have sparked a dialogue.
Right. I mean, what does Batman know about cheese? You know?
I don't know, because he spends all his time working out and fighting crime to try to avenge the death of his parents that he won't let go of. So...
Meanwhile, Gambit's just trying to steal things to have fun. He just needs that adrenaline kick all the time. Which is why I think, like, in a different AU, Gambit is just the Catwoman in the Batman series, and it's just two men trying to catch each other. right? That's the different universe.
Oh, very
that I'm
different.
thinking of.
I don't know if I ship it, but it would be fun to watch.
Sure. Because I mean, Danny asked the question: would Batman catch Gambit in the middle of a crime? And I think Gambit would only let him catch him in the middle of a crime. Gambit has, I think, an Ocean's 11, for lack of a better movie that I could think of, like level of planning around his heists.
That's good. That works.
So yeah, I think Batman wouldn't catch Gambit. I think it'd be like that.
You know what? I see it. I see why that would work, but like Brian, I don't know if I'd necessarily ship it, just because Batman's no fun. So
but it could be fun watching Gambit make fun of him for being no fun.
Right. This would be a fun buddy cop kind of thing, or buddy scenario.
I'd have to see the execution to make a final judgment, but
yeah,
I'm not sold on it.
Yeah. I mean, I could kind of see that. That's why I often go through phases where I ship Batman and the Flash, because of the like kind of that dynamic. But I feel like Gambit would be like more like flirty about it, whereas the Flash would be more like shucks about it, if that makes sense. We got off topic here.
Yeah. We've been very far off topic for a while. It's fine, because I just basically kind of want to wrap this episode up anyways with your final thoughts on did we really answer the question, is Gambit a broke ass Batman? I think we came into this with a resounding yes, but after the discussion, how are you guys feeling about it? Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the core is different, but it's kind of like a crab and a lobster, right? Like
sure.
they're shaped differently, but it's fundamentally the same animal.
Right. If you're allergic to one shellfish, you're allergic to all shellfish, right? I don't think that's how that works. Terrible analogy there. But I agree with you. Kara, what do you think?
Well, now that we've had this conversation, I think we need to kind of expand our original thesis and just say that the whole Batverse can be personified as Gambit in the Marvel universe, but like more fun. So like all of the Batman characters in a blender, and they pop up in the Marvel universe with glowy powers.
Kind of an oops all Gambits.
Oops all. All right, I found a title for the episode, and yeah, well, thank you guys for joining me in this conversation today. This is a lot of fun. I think gearing up for next week's annual episode, I can't wait to see what kind of chaos we bring to the table then. So thank you for bringing this up, and I'm glad that we got to revisit it. Oh, yeah. This was delightful. Yeah. Well, I want to say you can follow us all on Twitter. You can follow Brian at BrianHead. You can follow Kara at KaraSSam. You can follow me at Mike Rappin. And then you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at IRCB Podcast, where I try to post pretty regularly. And don't forget, if you mention the show on Twitter or Instagram or somewhere where you can tag us, you could be entered to win a $20 gift card of your choice. This show and our many subscriber-only episodes are powered by fans like you on Patreon. Join us now at patreon.com/IRCB podcast. If you haven't already, please rate and review our show. What are you waiting for? Go ahead, go on to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you give us 5 stars. You can also join us at our Discord at ircbpodcast.com/Discord, where you can do things like sit in on these recordings as they happen. And make sure to tell a friend or two about the show. Infinity Shred is the best band in the universe. They do all of our music. Xander is just a great friend, cool person to talk to, and he edits the show like a good person does. I want to say thanks to Brian and Kara for being on this episode. Sorry about that. And thank you to Danny, Cinco, Aaron, and Matt for hanging out in the chat with us today. It was really, really fun to have you guys listen to the episode live. And until next time, you got to remember, comics are good. And so are you.